today. Fairly well, madam. Let's call this meeting of the Charter Review Committee to order. Yes, ma'am. Let's call the meeting to order, and Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll. Oh, no, take your. For myself.
Ms. Bakers? Present. Mr. Bryant? Here. Mr. Coleman? Present. Mr. Fouché? Present. Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Pearson? Present. Mr. Powell?
Present.
Ms. Robinson?
Present.
Ms. Turnley?
Present.
Ms. Wilhelmy?
Present.
Mr. Wembley?
Present.
All is present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I invite everyone to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Reverend Williams, I believe you're our first speaker. Reverend Williams, my mistake. Can you just hang on just 1 second? Thank you. Our Vice Chairman, Tanya Barnhill Turnley, has been appointed to join the Augusta-Richmond County Commission and will take office next Tuesday. She is likely going to sit through the meeting because she's a valued member of the team, but it may be wiser for her to join the public citizens rather than be seated up here during this meeting. Go ahead, Tanya.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I'm honored by the confidence that the sitting commission put in me, and because of that, I'm going to leave the dais and sit down with everyone else, but I will be making my choice to replace me within the next couple of days, and I need to get with you, Ms. Bonner, to find out the process to make sure I have everything in place so that person will be able to sit with our next scheduled meeting, which I believe is August 7th. But we'll get offline. We can get together and do that. To my committee members, I am going to miss you guys. I really, for all the agreement and disagreements we have, I hope people realize, as I said from the beginning, the one thing that we all have in common, all 11 of us, is that we really want what's best to move Augusta-Richmond County forward. Now, how that happens, we might have a vast difference of opinion, but the thing that gives me such hope is that we have a common goal of moving this city and the county forward. It's been an honor for me, guys, to serve with you guys, and we'll see what the future holds. Since I'm a commissioner, I cannot fix traffic tickets or well, maybe potholes, but definitely not traffic tickets. But other than that, please don't hesitate to call me. You guys have, I'll probably have a new email, but my cell phone stays the same. Thanks again.
Thank you, Tanya. Yep. You've been a terrific vice chairman, madam. Is it Reverend Williams? Reverend Williams. I'm sorry to have brought you in.
My name is James Williams, and I live at 3408 Pine Hill Road, Hesper. And good morning to all of you, and Madam Chairperson and Madam Clerk. I came to you all probably into your third meeting of this committee, and I said things to you that was very concerning and was hoping to be very and encouraging to you, that whatever you did in this process of this review of the charter, that it would be fair, equitable, all those things that describes fairness and not bringing on things that will become questionable in terms of how you operate. I've attended several of your meetings, to include the last two couple of the community meetings. And I was somewhat disturbed by the way that I saw and the way things were handled managerially. When I say managerially, meaning from the standpoint of the facilitator, meaning the chairperson, and the optics that were shown, and to include making personal comments from the committee, and to include persons being, I'm going to use the term attacked, especially in your last meeting when citizenry words became where they were not so pleasant. And to the point of even what I would say, and this is me, of threatening. And the meeting, to me, there was no control. That was not a good optics for the people. That was not good optics for you. And I guess the views that the people were left with was that, all of that stuff is going out the door. It doesn't have you to look as if you know what you're doing. It's out of control. And then people are questioned in a manner where even their questions are not, people raise questions rather, and their questions are not answered. And to the point where a question was methodically thought out and presented to you all, and an answer was not given. And you said that you would answer all questions, and you do those things. But nevertheless, there are concerns about decorum. And I guess to sum that up, decorum is not quite where it should be. On top of that, subjects that's been brought up, and they're all over the place in terms of what people are saying and, and what people's concerns are. And there are concerns about, the dynamics of our city. When I say the dynamics of our city, the makeup of our city, we know is 60% African American, and that representation is seemingly on the table to be diminished in terms of it having representation in a future government. And when I say future government, meaning that there's to be minimized the amount of representation from the district standpoints, that it would diminish, somewhat minimize the Black community in its representation. And those are questions that have not been asked, or been raised rather, in terms of an answer given to, is that a thought in this committee mind now to diminish the amount of representation, meaning the 10 commissioners to less than what it is? Okay, I raised that question.
I'll answer it, but I would like you to step back from the microphone because you've exceeded your time. Much credence is given to what is heard on the street. Much credence is given to what people are told. And so I can't, and nobody on this board can be responsible for that. That will happen whether it is true or not, and it is happening. There is no movement afoot to diminish anything. I think, if anything, the percentage of African American representation will continue to grow. And so it'd be foolish to try to do anything to disrupt what the population is doing. We're more concerned about trying to devise a system that makes us work together. That is the only way we will ever grow. Anybody else? I think Mr. Pearson would like to speak as well.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Reverend, can you come back to the mic, please? Thank you. Okay. When you, please define representation. What do you mean by, in terms of diminishing? What do you, what is your feel? What are you thinking when you use the word diminishing?
Well, when I say diminished, is for the lack of a better word, just what I mean. In terms of the representation now. We know what the representation is on the commission now. In terms of
Representation in what?
in terms of race.
Oh, okay, okay,
In terms of race.
okay.
And that is, as some folk have been saying, an elephant in the room when it comes to a whole lot of concerns about how Richmond County operates and even how it relates to each other when it comes to race.
So,
It's go ahead.
okay, so when you look at the numbers in terms of the commission, what are the numbers, black, white? If we're talking about race, what are the numbers?
You have what, 6 blacks, 4 whites.
Okay. The sheriff is what?
What do you mean? The
What
sheriff,
is
the sheriff is African American. He's black.
The marshal,
The marshal, he's African American. He's
DA,
black. He's African American. He's
tax
black.
commissioner.
Tax commissioner is black. What's your point, sir?
Airport.
What's your point?
I'm making your point.
No. What's your
I'm
point?
discussing your point, representation. The mayor,
Well, when I say that in particular,
The mayor.
Because those appointments, some of them that you're mentioning, okay.
recreation.
Well, just
recreation and
hold
park.
on.
I'm just trying to.
You asked me. I
because
understand
this
what
has
you're trying to
been-
do.
This has been mentioned over and over again.
Yes, it
So I'm
has.
just trying to get someone to define that, and I think you are a good person that can better define that.
Thank you. When you look at who's elected on the commission and how they are elected, district-wise, when the attempt is thought to that you will minimize the number of districts and you minimize the number of representatives that you have, in terms of having a 10 commission representation, you may be talking about 5.
Okay.
You may be talking about 3. Minimizing, and then you go into a point of redistricting. When you start redistricting, then you start diminishing, and you've experienced that. We have experienced that.
Okay. There's another. There are more positions that are being well represented by people of color. Okay. So I was just trying to get your point. And because I've heard this over and over again, I was just trying to get a better understanding, because we haven't even talked about the solicitor, person over housing, again, parks and recreation, economic development, and so on and on and on. These people are all African Americans. So I'm just trying to get a better understanding. Maybe I'm going down the wrong path, but I'm just trying to get an understanding. Thank you very much.
But I would hope that'd be a dialogue that you all will be having amongst yourselves as a committee.
Mr. Coleman?
Reverend Williams, you said it was 6-4. Okay, the public voted for the mayor to have a vote, so there's 11 votes. So if you do a true tally, and I don't believe it's separated black-white. I believe it's separated black-black. Wayne Guilfoyle is not white. He's Asian American. So he represents a small community if we're going to break it down to race. What I see, not only as a committee member, I see the mayor and his supporters and the people who put him in place and the 6 commissioners that think like he does to fix things. And I see the old guard, which now only have 4 commissioners on there. I see them, everything to me is political now, is they're trying to separate things and bring the elephant in the room. There is no elephant. It's basically boils down, in my opinion, between Steve Kendricks running for mayor against Mayor Johnson. And a lot of the stuff we've talked about in these three meetings in the public have nothing to do with what we've been tasked with for the charter review. We talked about streetlights, potholes, sidewalks, schools. We have not been tasked to address any of that. That's a commission and other politicians' duties to do that. And a lot of the speakers that I've seen that came up in these meetings were political people that were related to ex-department heads and just trying to start a bunch of division amongst the committee and the public. And it's disheartening. Augusta-Richmond County is majority African-American, and I believe it's more than 64%. And Carl Vincent Institute showed us graphs. There are no more white districts in Augusta-Richmond County. There are 2 districts that are like 40-something% white, and the African-Americans are right there with them on percentage-wise. And I wish that everybody would get over what color it is and start judging people by the character and electing some officials that have foresight on moving this entire city and county forward and taking care of the people. I have detailed knowledge and experience working for the city of Augusta for over 35 years on the fire department, 2 years in the waterworks. The first politician I ever met was Mayor McIntyre. He came to the waterworks. He didn't go to the front. He came to the back. I love that man.
I'm sorry, Madam Chairperson.
I have to acknowledge my committee members, please.
And I
As
just
soon as he's done.
want people to start focusing on what we're here for. That is to look at the structure of the government. And I would never support redistricting. That's something done at a different level, way beyond us. And nobody's trying to create more white seats. That is a myth, and it's starting to bother me. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Robinson, pardon me.
I think the thing we need to be conscious of is an old saying my grandmother used to say in the church, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So just because somebody is of a certain color doesn't mean they're supporting their people. So if we think in terms of actual support and what people are doing, I think we can better figure out what we need to do here instead of basing it on black or white, because there's plenty of black people that don't support black people. And we're aware of that in our community. And we natively know that as our community. So I want us to get past that piece, because just because a black face is there doesn't mean they're representing those people. What I would like us to focus on is making sure we are shoring up our processes for a city of this size. There is no city in the entire United States of this size that only has 5 commissioners. Not a one. Almost all of them have anywhere from 10 to 16. And then you have places like Illinois, which is a lot larger than us, it has 25. So I don't think most people here are in favor of diminishing representation in that manner. And I'm not talking necessarily race, but I mean diminishing as far as our districts are concerned. We are too broad of a community to do that effectively. Literally, it would be a disaster if we did, because you have pieces of South Augusta that have different needs from other pieces of South Augusta. So to make those adjustments, those changes as a body would be a disservice to the people. And I wouldn't put my name on it. So if I hope and pray, and I mean pray with every fiber of my being, I'm a preacher's child, and I'm an ordained minister myself. I hope and pray that we don't make those mistakes with without thinking this through to the growth that we seek for Augusta, because this charter isn't built for today's Augusta. Sure. It's built for the Augusta my 2-year-old is gonna have. So we have to be conscious and forward thinking. And I think at some point we have to realize that the race piece that keeps coming up is not serving us very well.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Ms. Backus.
I just want to point out a couple of things. I think Mr. Williams, when he talks about the decorum at our town hall meetings, this is a really good example of what he's talking about. It seems the rebuttal responses to him seem very argumentative, in my opinion. I think when we're talking about community feedback, talking about potholes in grocery stores, it was relevant. Maybe not to the charter, but it was relevant because the people were telling you that they don't feel like they have a voice, that they're not seen in this community, because you don't see those issues in some other places. And so if we're not listening to what they're actually saying, you're going to miss the mark completely. I do think that mentioning also people that speak at the town hall, if they are a resident of Richmond County, they have every right to speak at a town hall, and you shouldn't publicly especially question whether or not they are related to an ex-department head, because nobody said anything about an ex-commissioner, Alvin Mason, speaking at that same meeting. So if we're going to be equal, let's be equal. And on that note, if we're going to be equal, plenty of times after one of us makes a comment to somebody who is speaking, they do have a chance for a rebuttal response. So either we're going to allow that or we're not, but we can't pick and choose which ones we're going to allow and not allow. And that is where equality comes in, and that is why people are so concerned, because they see that equality is not existing.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. Mr. Bryant?
Reverend Williams, I just wanted to assure you that from my position, there's been no discussion about redistricting or doing anything like that. And so I think if that becomes a subject matter, that will be a subject matter that's dealt with at the subcommittee level. And if that's put on the agenda at the subcommittee level, I'll personally make sure that you are notified of that. But there's been no decisions by this committee or any individual about mandating some type of redistricting in the charter review. So I know that's sometime word on the street, but that's something that I have not been aware of personally being discussed. And when it does, if it's a part of the discussion, I think it's something that will be discussed by this committee, and we will seek input from the community as well. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Mr. Coleman?
I'd like to respond to Ms. Bactos. The correct thing would have been done is to educate our public that come to those meetings to go to the proper venue to address their concerns, and not use everything in one's power to just start up strife and division. And that's what I see.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. We've got Mr. Powell.
Reverend Williams, I appreciate your passion, sir, and I appreciate your position. But I think that somehow in the general public, they're thinking we're going to have 3 or 5 commissioners, and that's what we're going to recommend. The original members of this committee, before we ever met, we all got a letter in the mail from Augie E. Green. There's no Augie E. Green. Somebody wrote that letter, and in that letter, they said that we needed 5 commissioners, among other things. That letter immediately went in the trash because we had never met. We have no idea, and has been no discussion about removing commissioners from their positions through this particular charter committee. When you have 5 people, you have extreme power in those 5 people. The more people you have within limits allows you to have to negotiate. And I think the general public has been made aware that, oh, yeah, well, they're going to just cut everything down and have 5 commissioners. That's not true. That was on the street, if you will, sir. It has never been discussed in this committee, and I don't think it will be. I think that whomever wrote that initial letter has some ulterior motives to put roadblocks in front of this committee for doing anything. So thank you again, sir, for your passion and for your commitment, and we'll do what we can here to absolutely make the local government as efficient as we possibly can, so that every taxpayer in Richmond County will have the feeling that the money they're spending, having to pay taxes, is going to the proper areas that the department heads are supposed to use it for. And we are trying to do something to replace and enhance the trust of the general public with the local government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. I'd like to ask my other committee members if it is okay with you, rather than continuing with our comments, if we can allow Reverend Williams 2 minutes to rebut.
I would still like to respond to Mr. Coleman.
Okay, let's give Reverend Williams 2 minutes first then.
Well, first of all, I don't think it would take 2 minutes, because a description of what I was talking about has been shared. And first of all, I'm not aware of any kind of letter that the gentleman referred to, but the perception that I see, and I'm not going by a street committee or anything like that, but it's from experience of living in this community all my life. And not to give away anything, but I'm probably older than either one of you sitting on the dais. Might not look like it, but I've been around here a long time. So I've experienced, so not only do I speak from experience, a personal experience, but I also speak from having been a part of this community physically. And it's been a sentiment. What people see is that no one wants to give up authority. No one wants to give up the position that they're in charge. They make all the decisions. And subliminally, when I say that, you know what I mean. There are hidden folk who want to continue to make decisions that even this committee may be guided by. Those are perceptions. No one knows necessarily who they are per se, but no one wants to give up authority. Everybody wants to maintain the control. And for black folk, and I'm not trying to give you a racial lesson or anything, but when the commission became what it is today, when it got 6 commissioners, then the concerns about governing became an issue. Prior to that, you didn't hardly hear anything. Even the previous mayor who spoke to us, or spoke to you, alluded to the fact that he worked well with the commission, and not to say there's nothing to be changed, but he worked well, and he was able to work across the lines. What we don't see always is visionary coming from our representatives. And that's a concern, because the visions are somewhat isolated to certain areas that you hear concerns that nothing happens in South Augusta. Everything is in West Augusta. So when the vision for all of Augusta is a vision for all of Augusta, then I don't know how you stifle the ones who want to, the old guard, I think someone mentioned old guard, controlling. And it's felt that because of your position, you're hearing those things. I'm saying that you do, because the public does.
Would you be available after this meeting for a conversation?
With who?
Lessons with me?
With
You have comments you would like to render that I'd like to hear from you, if that's okay.
Well, if I talk to you, Madam Chair, I prefer that it be more than just you.
No worries. You name who you'd like, and that'll be just fine.
No. More than just the chairperson.
So at the moment, we've got an agenda that we're already exceeding in terms of public speaking, and I've got two more comments coming from our members. I don't want the conversation to end, is what I'm trying to say.
If there's a dialogue, if there's to be a dialogue as such as you're asking about.
Well, or you teaching me a few
Well,
things too.
not necessarily teaching you,
No,
but as
I may need
dialogue,
that.
then I'm not the only one that needs to be a part of that
Yeah,
conversation.
understood.
And I think that's the whole idea of what is the concern, that people have been left out of the conversation. So if you want to have a conversation about what we are talking about, as the chairperson of this committee, then it would be more than myself, and to include your committee representative. So that's a meeting that probably would need to take place another day, and we have no problem with that.
Very good. Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Thank you.
Ms. Backus?
I think I just want to address what is the appropriate place to be heard, since that was what Mr. Coleman said. I think the Carl Vinson Institute has been very patient with all of us committee members throughout this process, reminding us that a lot of the things that we bring up have nothing to do with the charter, but they are our concerns, and they allow us to be heard, and then they remind us it has nothing to do with the charter. If I'm not being heard when I put in my complaint with 311 about the potholes, I'm gonna go to the one place, and I'm gonna try here, and I'm gonna try here, and I'm gonna try here, but it still goes back to the part where I don't feel heard, I don't feel seen, and we as a committee need to receive that information as that, still guide them to the place that can actually help them, but this is the appropriate place to be heard. Just like in our finance subcommittee, when you were concerned about Parks and Rec, whether or not they could take cash, has nothing to do with the charter, but we heard you and we allowed you to be heard, and I think it's fair to allow our community members the same.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. Thank you, Ms. Sheppy.
So I was going to say
Robinson.
something else, but in all honesty, I would like us to motion to move on.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Madam, you don't need a motion to just move forward.
All right,
Okay.
we're going to.
You're going
Thank
to the
you.
next item.
That's true, but let's move.
Motion to approve the minutes of June 25th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Ma'am?
Thank you. So it was Mr. Powell moved and Mr. Wimberly seconded. Ms. Bonner, yeah.
Madam Chair, there was a correction.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to go ahead and, please.
So under the motion, there were two motions that were missing. The first one that is on there, I believe, is number 4, and that's the motion to dissolve the previous motion regarding subcommittees. And then I believe Mr. Powell had made a motion to change it to where both subcommittees were held the same day, beginning at 1:30. And that one did pass, but in the meantime, there was the substitute motion by Ms. Robinson for both subcommittees not to exceed 1 hour, and that did not pass. So if we could add those to the minutes as well.
I just need concurrence from the committee, if that's what you want to do.
Did we hear any objections? Otherwise, let's accept them as presented.
Okay.
All right. Please cast your votes for the minutes.
Correction, shouldn't we be accepting them as presented with corrections?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe that was the intent of the chair.
Madam Chairman, when you're voting, I don't see my name on as a speaker, so you got an email.
All right, we'll be happy to restore that here shortly. Let's deal with this first. Please cast your votes.
That motion carries.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, can we call Mr. Todd, who in fact did send an email, but it's been a wild rodeo this week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just for the record, Madam Chair, I'm going to ask, how are you voting for the minutes? Yes, ma'am. Mr.
I voted to accept.
Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you. It's unanimous.
Mr. Todd.
Yes. My name is Moses Todd, 2747 Deansbridge Road, Augusta, Georgia. 7 days ago, I sent an email looking at my email. And on that email, I requested 3 minutes for public comment. I love Augusta. I had a couple of questions to the committee and to Carl Vinson. One was, do Carl Vinson have a white paper on consolidated governments? And I think that they have an answer to that and that they're bringing in today, I was informed, institutional documents, and perhaps that's there. Number 2 was, do Dillard's rule or home rule limit what can be put in a charter? And that's Judge Dillard's ruling of 1868. To give some perspective to it, and hopefully you were able to find that. And I have comments. So I'll start my comments by prefacing what the thoughts of some in the community is about the makeup of the commission and the methodology of electing commissioners. Committee member Rod Pearson in a government Forum Committee made a comment in reference at-large elections. So I think that's where probably some of this come from. And I wasn't aware of the letter that committee member Lee Powell mentioned, but certainly if that's out there, then I will note that the sheriff was here at the last the public meeting that was held here, because the word out on the street was that they were going to decrease his responsibilities as far as law enforcement and give it all to the marshal's office. And last night, on the agenda, I think yesterday, that's going to be the reverse of what's been recommended. So things do get out there and get kind of wild. I think that the biggest concern is socioeconomic inequities. So I don't know how you separate that from race, but if we can, we will. And for the record, I'm not kin to anyone in county government and have no relatives that's elected officials. I guess I am the old god in the sense that I'm 75 years old. And been involved in my government since 1978, the Augusta Richmond County government, after moving here from a consolidated government in Columbus, Georgia. I got involved in the consolidation effort or opposed to it because I know what how the consolidated government of Columbus, Georgia diluted the minority participation and the number of elected representation that as far as minorities go. Columbus, Georgia is different makeup in Augusta, Georgia. Columbus, Georgia today is only 46%, about 40% white, 40% something black, and the other is others in the Hispanics. So they don't have the racial divide that we've had here over the years. So to just, piggyback on that a little bit, on that concept, I think that it's socioeconomic inequities that we're concerned about. And those inequities affect all poor folks. And there's probably in Richmond County more poor black folks than it is white folks. So that's my thoughts on that. I've been constructed. I've given constructive criticism to this committee from day one. I haven't tried to delay or block or anything. I'll let you do your work. Then when you do your work and you finish, and the finished product, and it come back to the voters, then that's when I do my work. So I think that it's important that what you do have a good look if you're expecting the voters to buy into what you do, and that it have some fairness. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I'd like to have the answers to my questions, including the question of which form of government have least malfeasance.
Are you planning on attending the form of government meeting?
Yes, I am.
Good. Can I clarify also, your second question was about home rule limiting what could be?
Well, the question was on Dillard's rules and home rule. Do it limit what a charter committee can do or put in a charter?
Okay, very good.
And I
Thank
know
you.
that's probably a legal question more so than a Carl Vinson question.
All right, very good. We will include that. Mr. Coleman here.
Mr. Todd, I just want to say thank you for your participation, and I truly value your knowledge, and I have learned a lot from you since I was asked to be on this board. I appreciate your conversations, and with me, I'm a simple person. I look at an individual not as black and white. I look at him as either a uniter and or a divider, and you, sir, are a uniter, and I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, and sometime I'm a divider.
It's okay. That's how you get, that's part of the sausage making. We're ready to hear from Dr. Facer if he is ready to present.
Sure. We were asked over the last few meetings, we've been asked to present about different forms of government. And as I remind us all of that conversation, part of it is these are kind of examples. These are not proposals. These are simply ways in which you can structure. There is nothing in it. So even though today, for example, I'll talk about kind of traditional models of commission forms of government, and the most common numbers are 3 and 5, that doesn't mean that the committee is endorsing either 3 or 5 as an approach to the number of commissioners. That is simply the pattern that we see across the state. And so I just want to kind of hopefully remind you folks that these are simply examples to give kind of broad boundaries. And what we tend to see is when local governments are creating these structures, sometimes they choose pure forms, if you will, and other times they create, I think the term that has been used occasionally is unicorns. The other term that came to my mind was Frankenstein's, where we piece pieces together, and hopefully it's a friendly monster. But at the end of the day, what we're after is trying to find the structure that's going to work for Augusta-Richmond County. And so I just want to, again, not that anybody, I want to make it clear, nobody's proposing a sole commissioner for Augusta-Richmond County. That is a form that is out there. And I think it would be unlikely that anybody would endorse that kind of model. But in full disclosure, as we're talking about all of the forms that are out there, we want to make sure that we highlight that it is a possible form as well. In the sole commissioner form, it's generally small governments where you don't have a lot of capacity, among other things. That sole commissioner then appoints the department heads, appoints the attorney, the clerk, et cetera, and oversees the functions of government. But you can imagine that as a government gets more than a few thousand people, that becomes an unmanageable task for a sole commissioner. And so the tendency has been across most counties in Georgia to have multi-member commissions, with 5 being the most common. But among the consolidated governments, we tend to see larger numbers of commissioners. In this kind of pure commission model, the commission ends up appointing the department heads, and there is not a professional administrator or manager in between the commission and the department heads. And so what typically happens is individual commissioners are assigned to oversee different departments So one commissioner might be over Public Works, one might be over Parks and Recreation, another might be over code enforcement, et cetera. And the idea is that those commissioners then have day-to-day operational responsibilities over those. Again, this is not a common strategy for larger, sophisticated governments because it doesn't have that professional management that's going on in that case. And so our presentation today is relatively short. This was the only set of ones that we hadn't presented to the full committee. We do have research, as we had mentioned before, that we'll have available to share with the Form of Government subcommittee if they please today. And we are looking at a variety of other things. We continue to be scouring for new literature. There was a recent article just posted in the last year that we just found on corruption in local government, and so we're exploring that new article that we literally just found. In most of the corruption literature, just is a case in point, it examines corruption not necessarily from the U.S. local governments. It tends to be much more focused on international or on larger institutional settings. And so there are only 2 articles in the last 10 years that are focused on U.S. local governments and corruption. And so we'll have some more details on those as we examine those articles more closely moving forward. So thank you.
All right, there's our survey. Let's go to Mr. Wimberly, or is it Mr. Lewis? I can't quite tell from here. Mr. Wimberly.
I think Ms. Johnson
Yes, of course.
first.
District 1, okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, Ms. Ross, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Robinson.
We'll get it right.
So I think it is an immense, and don't take my words to be personal, Carl Vincent Institute folks, you guys do wonderful work and I appreciate what you're doing. But I think it's an immense waste of time for us to discuss governments that don't fit our size. If we are dealing with, because this is how the information gets into the community that we're making these changes, because we're talking about things that are done in other areas. And I mean other areas that aren't our size. Like you said, it's common for 3 to 5 commissioners. That is common in rural areas, and Georgia is mostly rural. So we have to make sure we qualify and quantify what we're saying, because when this information goes into the public, now the public is upset at us, and y'all go back to Athens. So I would like us to stay focused on consolidated governments and governments of our size, meaning metropolitan areas across Georgia, so that we are doing our due diligence based on kind of maps that are set before us, because I don't think anybody wants to come here and reinvent the wheel so much as we want to improve what we have. So I don't know who directed you guys in the future and directed you guys to do that, but I don't think it served us, because like I said in our very last meeting, most of the cities that had 5 commissioners had under 10,000 people. So I would like us to stay focused on that piece. That's the one thing. And the other totally escaped me, so I'll go ahead and concede the floor.
Mr. Wimberly, just one moment, please. My understanding was we were to understand all forms of government. We've completed that piece now. So it's not a waste of time to broaden our knowledge base, in my opinion. Certainly, we're welcome for others. Mr. Wimberly.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I, too, are not attacking you directly. But you're a used car salesman. Oh, no, not a used car salesman. You're a car salesman. And on your lot, you got cars that was traded in. Now, you got your high-end cars over here. And when I drive up, I drive up in one of those high-end cars, maybe a year older. Are you going to take me to the beat-up, run-down cars and try to sell me that? That gets just to what Ms. Robinson was talking about. why tell me about a form of government that doesn't fit us? Why would you sell me a 2001 Mercedes when I'm coming up to you in a 2004 and want to trade in? That's the idea. So when you're bringing decisions or options to us, bring them that fits. And just as she said, and I don't want to go behind her anymore, just as she said, when we discuss it, it's out there. And it is going to be talked about. It is going to be talked about. Somebody's going to be talking about, oh, we're going to a one commissioner. You said commissioner, you didn't put plural on that. We're going to a one commissioner government. So watch that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wimberly. Ms. Backus?
So I want to take some accountability because I asked you guys during the last meeting when we were going to talk about the other forms of government. So that I will absolutely own that one. I just want to point out that it is not Carl Vinson Institute's role to tell us what fits us. It's their role to educate us, and if we have questions, to answer those questions for us. And I do think that they've been very effective with that. So I want to take some of the heat off of y'all and I'll throw myself under the bus. I'm okay with it. I do think that when we are talking about form of government, though, especially when we're talking about ours right now, a lot of the conversations, even in town halls and out on the street, and up here, have been about the roles of commissioners and mayors for the most part. And I think if we can clarify, maybe not today, but moving forward, what the responsibilities of each one of those roles are, so that we can help determine, do we need to fix that, or do we just need to make sure people are accountable to not overstepping what their roles and responsibilities are? And I do want to question, too, the department heads and the city administrator, even if we choose to go to city manager and they report to the mayor, wouldn't department heads, and would it not still be appropriate then for commissioners, if I represent a district and somebody comes to me with an issue, I can still go to those department heads and the city manager and question them on it. So they kind of still report in a certain way. You know what I mean? Like the whole conversation of they all have 11 bosses, but they would still be liable to answering questions that commissioners bring to them. Is that not correct?
So in general, when you have a professional manager that is in that managerial role, the proper protocol that is generally followed is for a member of the council that has an issue to go to the manager, and the manager to then go to the department heads. And so that you want to prevent the council members trying to go around the management to the department heads themselves. And so in well-run local governments, there is a good working relationship between the manager and the commissioners or the city council that allows for that information to flow in, and the manager is then responsible for getting the department heads to understand what their roles are, and B, reporting back to the council or commission on what they did in response to their request.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. Mr. Fouché?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make an observation here. Columbia County has a panel of 5 commissioners. One's a manager, pretty much so. And they're not a rural county. They're not a rural development. They're having explosive growth. There's something about simplicity in numbers that seems to work well for some communities. It seems to work well for Columbia County. So I think the Carl Vinson Institute is doing a wonderful job of showing us what's available, what's out there, and they should continue that work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fouché. Mr. Wimberly?
First from Ms. Beckham concern, and this back to you, Carl. No attack now. she was right to ask you to give her information on the form of government. I'm going back to the car lot. When I pull up in that 2024 Mercedes, and I want to trade it in, I expect for you to be telling me what the difference in the options of the 2024 and the 2025. Not telling me the difference in the option of the 2024 and the 2001. So that's what I mean by that. So get into the form of government, like government, is what we should be getting an example of how it works. In Columbia County, how the commissioners in Evans, but each one of their cities have a government body to have representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wimberly. Ms. Robinson?
So I remember what my other thing was. There is a recent article posted about Gwinnett County going to full-time commissioners. I did some additional research across the country where many larger municipalities that are growing and seeking additional growth are transitioning to full-time commissioners. The premise around it has been if these people are elected officials, they should be elected to be around consistently versus have to do other jobs. So what I would like to have is some additional information around this transition, because this is a fairly new transition across the country, probably within the last 10 to 15 years, where they're transitioning to full-time commissioners because they're seeing the commissioners don't necessarily always do their jobs when they're part-time. I don't know about anybody else, but when I worked my first job at Burger King part-time, I didn't really care about too much other than the hours I was there. So if we're wanting to hold our elected officials accountable, then perhaps that is something we need to evaluate as an option, especially since that is becoming something fairly new here in the state of Georgia. So I would like additional information on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. No, pardon me, hang on one second. I'm sorry. I called you out of order there. Mr. Coleman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, no problem. Ms. Backus.
I just want to piggyback on that. At Tuesday's public meeting, former Commissioner Alvin Mason had mentioned too that commissioners don't have office space. They don't have office space. I think their pay is what, like $1,600 a month? So I think when we're talking about having an effective form of government, we need to evaluate that too. So I would agree with Ms. Robinson on that. How much are the commissioners in the other places being paid? What is the expectation of time that's being put on them? Do they have to have other jobs? Do they have office space? Are we giving them everything that they need in order to do their job effectively? And we had spoken before too about ensuring that even if we go to city manager, making sure that that city manager has at least the minimal support staff that is required to do their job effectively included in the charter, so that that way it can never be decreased. You know what I mean? So I don't know if we're just throwing everything at you today, but I would be interested in knowing that, because I think you're going to get different people that are willing to step up and be a commissioner based upon what the time commitment is and whether or not they have to work another full-time job and take care of the kids and. So maybe it's not a problem so much with our system as it is the details behind it.
Okay. Coach Bryant.
I think one of my issues has been the difference between a manager and an administrator. And I know in certain governments that becomes a blurred line, that managers and administrators do things. But I do want to say is that I know if we do in the new charter where department heads would report to a manager/administrator versus reporting to 11 commissioners, is something that we definitely need to consider. And I can only relate to my background in intercollegiate athletics as an athletic director, is that there is no way I could have ran a successful athletics department, one that won 2 Division I national championships and other accolades that I won't bore you with, based on the fact that someone else were running those departments. I reported to the president of the university, and the president of the university had the right to hire or fire me, and I understood that. But that president or those board of trustees or the board of regents had no power or authority to tell me how to run my programs. Or if my basketball coach is running a 2-3 and somebody thought they need to be running a 1-3-1, that's crazy. And so I would hope in our deliberations and our thought that Carl Vinson could give us examples of places, regardless of commissioner, mayor, or mayor alone, or commissioner alone, but where city managers actually, or administrators, actually do the day-to-day issues with the department heads. Because what I'm hearing from some of the meetings, as you take out stuff that should be in ordinances and people worried about grocery stores and not and all of that, is that what's been some of the core issues that I've heard. And one of the core issues that I've heard is that there's some concern about someone feeling like they report to 11 different bosses. I think that is a legitimate concern. And I would hope as we start to evolve ourselves and come up with a proposal, if you will, as we move forward, that would be something that we would look at. While I have the mic now, and I won't later, I would like to request that the Carl Vinson Institute provide a chart, if you will, or something showing how this process will work from this committee. Once this committee has a recommendation, where that recommendation goes, and from there to the state legislator, which I think is mandated by law to make that decision, and to come back as a vote or a referendum if they decide to. I think that would be something beneficial on our website. It would be something beneficial for the public to see, just to see how this progress works. Because I think there's a lot of thoughts and misinformation and conspiracy theories out there about how this thing's going to go. And I think based on the fact that we were appointed by a commission and a mayor, and that was a charge that we have, and our charge is to come back with a recommendation for several groups to review and for one group to take to the state legislator. And from there, the state legislator will determine if it comes to a vote. Then if it gets to that point, then I think it takes a whole different life of itself, in that the public will be informed of exactly what's in front of them. And so I would like to ask Carl Vinson to provide that type of chart or illustration defining exactly how this process works. Because I think there's some misconception out there that we are bypassing commissioners and bypassing the local government. But I think we are mandated by law to do certain things. And this committee can only do, we don't make those decisions on our own. We make those decisions based on the parameters given to us by those who have charged us. And those will be my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Coach. All right, who do we have? Ms. Robinson.
I'll be quick. I think quite a few times Dr. Facer has been asked the question about what is most efficient, and his response has always been a city manager is more efficient. So I think for the most part, Mr. Bryant, the bulk of us are on board with a manager model, and as you'll see, even in our public hearing summary, that has been what the public consensus has been as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Backus?
I just wanted to address real quick with Coach Bryant the misconceptions about what we recommend bypassing the commission. A lot of the things that are the word on the street actually stem from either our committee or the commission, and this is one of those things that actually stems from the commission, because I did go back after Mr. Hassan mentioned the March 4th meeting in our Monday town hall meeting. I did go back and listen to that, and it was said, I believe it was Mr. Plunkett that said that it would go back to the commission to be voted on, and it did not end up on the resolution for our committee. So that's part of the concern, because that 2/3 requirement, as I shared with our committee at our last meeting, it is in every level of our government, from our city charter, state constitution, U.S. Constitution. And in the way that we are set up, it seems to bypass that. And I think that is a valid concern. That's not something we had anything to do with as far as it bypassing the commission. That's a commission issue and it's out of our hands. But I just wanted to clarify where that misconception does stem from.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. All right, now we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is the report on the surveys. As of last evening, Adrian's up there. Adrian, I think Jeff sent me 1274 as of last evening, and I have not heard today. Do we have an update? Okay, he'll get that for us. I also want to commend Commissioner Backus for taking the bull by the horns. She made copies, and we brought them to the community centers for those folks that either neither have computers nor are able to make it all the way down to various libraries. If they were able to make it to a community center, they hopefully, as of noon today, will have an opportunity to cast votes on the surveys before they close next Thursday. And then next Thursday, those results will be electronically transmitted from the IT department to Carl Vinson for survey analysis, and you expect to present results on the 7th?
I'm not ready to commit to the 7th yet. I mean, that will be our goal, but I'm not sure if we'll have time to, and part of that's due to a responsibility I have with the university that week.
Very good, understood. All right, and then the public hearings recap.
Question about the surveys. And
Yes.
I think
I'm sorry,
Mr. Fouché was in
Ms.
there.
Backus. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Fouché.
Mr. Fouché, okay, pardon me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question about the survey. I have concern about the introduction of the paper ballot. As we tabulate the results, will we know how many of the results were paper ballots versus electronic ballots, or will the paper ballots be transferred to be an electronic ballot?
I can.
Ms. Backus?
So that's not a Carl Vinson thing. That's something that Marcy and I had discussed. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick them up from the rec centers, and her and I will sit down together. And as I enter one in and she enters one in, we will both check each other to make sure we're doing accurately. So we want to make sure it is fair.
That's a good process.
But the problem was most of the rec centers didn't have computers. We wanted to hurry up and get something out there to them. And the IT department has been amazing with trying to get the tablets out there. So we'll be set up for our next. Okay. I do have a question about the data. Will the raw data be available to both committee members and the public? Because I'm interested in seeing the raw data.
My understanding is that would be a committee decision. I mean, I have no, I mean, it is public data, and so I don't have any hesitation with it being available to folks. I think it would be kind of most prudent to rather than it be there's technical terms on the comma delineated files and whatnot, to have it as a spreadsheet if we're going to share it, is the raw data. It's probably the easiest mechanism. So, but that would be the preference of the committee or an open records request, I guess.
Well, I think that would be, can we go on ahead and request that when IT does forward it to Carl Vinson Institute, that committee members are also receiving a copy at that same time?
Would you like us to clean it first? Okay, I'm seeing some notes.
I'd actually just like the raw data. I'm an Excel geek, so I really like the raw data.
Understood, but I think there may be a bit of wisdom in us standing at arm's length. We're going to get the raw data either way. I think there's, out of respect for their role, allowing them to do the analysis ahead of time. Sheffy's shaking her head no, and I'd like to hear from her, but in my opinion would be, we're going to get it anyway. The danger in releasing it before they've done their analysis, which they're being paid for, is that it will make its way into the public arena.
It's going to go in the public arena anyway, because they can request the data right now.
It's a question of putting it in proper order and context.
They can still, it's a Survey Monkey. The public can request the Survey Monkey right now if they want.
Yeah.
So there's no need for us to gatekeep that data. I'm more interested in the additional comments that are added, as well as the people who sign up for focus group. So that's why I particularly want the raw data, so that we can start planning for the focus group.
Yeah, I personally don't have any problem with harvesting the raw data, but I think there is a respect issue between their professional expertise and us, that before, I get it, you can come out and do that, but I think that is a breach.
Well, and I think that Carl Vinson Institute is going to have a different analysis than maybe me, but it's the same thing when I go to my doctor and I have labs drawn. I want to see the results so that when I come to my appointment, I have my questions ready for you.
Yeah.
So, and I tend to try and be proactive with that information so that I can look at it and get those questions ready. So we're not extending it out even further and you got to go back and look. So I personally would like the raw data as soon as it's available to Carl Vinson as well.
I will note that I just had whispered in my ear that we're up to 1,329 responses, I believe.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1,323. Unless there are 6 people in the last 30 seconds that have filled it out. So 1,300 plus, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Right. Mr. Bryant. Coleman was there too. Go ahead, Mr. Coleman.
Madam Chair, I had the same exact concerns that Mr. Fauché brought up. I would like Carl Vinson Institute, when he gives us the tallies of the numbers, I want to know exactly how many was done online with the Survey Monkey, because we discussed when we started talking about this, that is an IP address hooked to it, so people couldn't do multiple surveys. Now, I have a problem with these handout surveys because I honestly believe there's ballot stuffing that might take place and people filling out stuff. So I like to see exactly how many numbers were done on the survey online versus how many were done paper. Now, everybody knows how many people showed up at these meetings, and when we start having more than 150 or 200 of these things show up, to me, it's a sign of ballot stuffing and certain individuals trying to send this thing in one direction or another. That's my main concern, is accountability.
Mr. Bryant?
I think we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Based on the fact that I'm supportive of the survey. I think it gives the public input. I've encouraged a number of groups that I work with, nonprofit-wise and others, to fill out the survey, and I've been notified by a number of them that they filled it out. I will also add that there are a number of people in our communities that's not satisfied with the layout of the survey. They don't think it adequately addresses the issues of our consolidated government and what's in front of us. In a population of 200,000 that I keep hearing about, Augusta, Richmond County, consolidated government, 1,300 responses, and maybe 400 or 500 before the 31st will basically give us about 2,000 responses. I'm not the mathematician, but 2,000 of 200,000 is not a very high percentage. And I don't know really, based on that small amount of response, do you adequately get what you want to get other than saying we gave the public an opportunity to fill out the survey, which I think is BS. If you don't adequately get the survey to the numbers that need to be responsive. So one of the things I'll ask Carl Vinson once it's done is that based on the number of people and based on the percentage of the surveys that did, how much can we really base our thought process on this survey? That would be a question for me, is that if it's under 3,000 people responding, is that really a response or not? And does that mean we have to go back to the drawing board at another point in time and provide another survey that may be more adequate to the answers of the things we need to do? So I hope we can use this as a learning tool and not making it the final tool in case we need to do more research or more, give the public more. Now, one of the things I mentioned before, and I think it's a responsible piece, is that everybody in Richmond County gets a water bill. There's nobody that don't get a water bill. And I really believe, and I said this before, if we provide a survey in the water bill, we will get a lot more responses than we're doing by hand or anything else. And you have a way that anybody, the person that's working 2 or 3 jobs, the person who is a way that they might respond to the survey. So I hope this is just the first step and not the final step, if another step is needed for us to adequately evaluate the responses from a survey.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Point of information, you wisely suggested that about 3 meetings ago, and I just wanted to share what stopped us at that point. Was there is a 6-week cycle where the bills are staggered going out. So you have to plan a long ways in advance to be able to get those to go out. And the second portion was, I think there was $2,000 attached to printing what was going to go in the bills. That would have to be worked out as well, because we do not have a budget at all. So we'll take that up at another time, but I do think that's an excellent idea.
Carl Vinson has a budget.
Carl Vinson has the budget. Very good, Coach. Very good. Ms. Backus.
I just want to remind Mr. Fouché and Mr. Coleman that we did actually discuss this as a committee and come to an agreement initially when we were discussing how do we reach those people that do not have access to technology. We discussed doing a paper ballot. Carl Vinson Institute came back, and at that point, keep in mind, a lot of the questions were you needed to answer. It wasn't multiple choice. And they were going to have problems with processing that information and getting it in. And so that's when we did agree as a committee to open up the IP address to where it would not block one per thing, because there was less risk of abuse there than leaving people out, because we wanted to ensure to include everybody. Part of the problem is when this survey opened, It didn't open until the 7th of July. And at that point, Mr. Fouché, you had replied back to Jeff from IT through email and wanted to confirm that it was limited 1 per IP address, even though that's not what our committee had agreed on. And it took a full week and some change, I think, in order to get that fixed. So we were working on a very short deadline. This survey was supposed to have been open for 30 days. And we wanted to make sure that we included everybody as much as possible. So, I mean, I think Marcy and I had discussed hanging on to the paper ballots. So if anybody wanted to look at them, but we would be checking each other to make sure that what I'm entering is what's on the paper and vice versa.
And similarly, Carl Vinson's survey team has the means to screen electronic input to determine if there's any nefarious activity going on.
So there wouldn't be a difference, since we would be inputting them into SurveyMonkey. There would be no way for Carl Vinson to know the difference between what Marcy and I inputted versus what random people put in.
And Sheppy is on the docket, so we'll go in order, but Ms. Backus, it's going to go back and forth.
Point of order. This is not a vote. It's feedback. It's feedback. So this ballot stuffing and all of those things, we shouldn't care about those things because this is not a vote. It is feedback. And if somebody gives feedback once or twice, maybe they had a second thought, just like we sit up here and have second thoughts too. And you know what? Let me go back and change that. With 10% of our population even filling out the survey, which is actually pretty good statistically, because 1%, excuse me. Well, that's actually still pretty good, because in a lot of areas, you may not get that on a public survey. I don't think we got more than 1% on our budget survey, did we? I don't think we did. So let me finish. So there are two things that are a problem here. Number one, we have to stop thinking about this as a ballot. We're not voting. We're getting input from the community. So if we have somebody do it more than once, so what? It's not going to kill anything because, again, it is not a vote. Second piece, we have done a poor job of marketing it. And this is why we ended up having to do, this is why I brought up the whole paper ballot thing, paper survey thing in the first place, was because we're not effectively marketing. And this goes back to the budget. We don't have a budget for this. That was something I was going to talk about in new business, but we have to establish a marketing platform of some sort for us to get this information to the people, because the people have to vote on what we do here. So if we're going to leave the people out of the conversation, we're going to waste our time for the next year, and we're not getting paid to be here. I charge my clients $300 an hour, so if I could do something else with this time, that would be great. But I'm not going to waste it knowing that the people still have to vote on it anyway. So we have to include the people in the process. If people need paper surveys to do that, then so be it. Why would we want to silence anybody? We already had a committee member say he wanted to know who had certain degrees so he knew who to pay attention to or not. Let's not keep doing this. Let's not. We're supposed to be listening to the people. Let's listen to the people.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Mr. Guilfoyle. Mr. Guilfoyle, listen to me. Mr. Fouché.
So Madam Chair, thank you very much for recognizing me. I have a question for Mr. Todd and Mr. Williams. Gentlemen, what will your communities have to say when we base our opinions on 1% of the population? Thank you.
Madam Chairman, the answer would be my community don't trust you. My community don't trust the commission. And I have a hard time getting my community to trust me. So it's from experience, and again I'll mention the socioeconomic inequities that that my community think that you look through them instead of at them. They think you plan for them instead of with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Williams?
What is your question?
What will your community think of this subcommittee basing our opinions on 1% of the population's response?
To the survey.
To that point, what my community,
Who you represent.
that's somewhat of a point you are making already. We are a community. So when it comes to what my community was saying, Mr. Todd, and I see this being the whole community, but when you reference my community, help me out to understand what's your point in saying my community?
Your congregation, the people that you represent every day you're here with your comments.
I represent the community as a whole. In terms of when I say that, I don't represent a congregation. I don't represent, when you referring to the church per se, okay? I'm not representing a church. I'm speaking as people would speak.
I'm having trouble with that.
I'm having trouble with understanding you.
Well,
I think, Madam Chairperson, I'm not going to stand here and debate, but I think
We're going to move on, but
true. This is the kind of conversation.
we're having a conversation.
No, but this is not the forum for it. This is not the forum for it. And even I was invited to have a meeting with the chairperson after the meeting.
Allow me to rephrase.
Let me do this, Madam Chair. I was asked a question, and I think I gave what I feel is my response, okay? And I'm not here to debate any, back and forth.
That's fine.
But with that, I think this is where the concern is overall. It's a cloud over this community overall in terms of the way people are treated and the responses that they get. And the responses are not always acceptable. They are not always amenable to the way I feel. When I say I feel, meaning personally, or the way the community feels. It's been back and forth all morning, basically, since the time I got up, about the very same kind of issue that I warned us about. When I say us, I'm being inclusive, from the first time I came before you, that we did not want to get to this point. But if bringing us to this point, and I applaud some of the comments that's been made to the very same fact that there's more than a review issue.
it is. Thank you for your comments. We're going to move on because you're right. You're absolutely right about that. Ms. Backus, briefly, please.
I just want to point out that one of the questions that is on the survey is which district are you in, so that we can evaluate it and say, okay, if this district didn't have very much feedback, then we need to make sure we reach out to that district more effectively. But basing opinions on a 1% response just to, first of all, we don't have to, we all know as a committee, we don't have to follow what the community says. And I think based upon what's on the subcommittee agenda for today, that is a great example of that, because we haven't gotten the survey results back. But even when that was submitted, we had our first town hall, and that doesn't follow what we heard from the people at our first town hall. If we're going to be concerned about basing opinions and doing things off of a 1% response, then I don't know why a lot of the discussion that we have had previously is about having this eventually go onto a May ballot versus a November ballot when you do have a higher percentage. So if we're going to be consistent about wanting a good percentage back on opinions and making sure that those are all represented, even though we don't actually have to follow them, then we need to be consistent with that.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. Coach Bryant?
My basic interest is how that we can continue to get input on surveys. And sometime instead of people actually coming to you, sometimes you might have to take the survey to the people. And it doesn't have to be necessarily in a written ballot. It can be, you can show up at libraries or community centers or wherever, or events with computers for people to provide their input. And so I'm just hoping and wishing, based on this survey, and if there are other surveys that need to be done, we will not limit it to this survey alone. I'd be very interested, because I've heard people from homeowners associations and other various things in this community mention their input and impact. And I think that is very good input and impact. And so I think when you go to the public, like we do in hearings, I haven't been disappointed in the hearings. The hearings were just what I knew they would be, hearings. And even though we say they should be about our government and restructuring and thinking about that, other issues are going to come to light. And I think those are issues we should be able to point people to in order for them to deal with them. And so the thing is that we cannot continue as a committee with some of the infighting versus what we need to do in the best interest of this community. And at the end of the day, because we sit where we sit, we are going to be able to bring all of our ideas together and try to decide what to recommend from our subcommittees to our main committee and then forward. I think there might have to be some education on everybody's part of roles of subcommittee and how subcommittees work and they present their thing to the full committee and how that should work. The worst thing we could do is put the horse ahead of the carriage. We need to let it go step in step and make our decisions based on what's been presented. And then at the proper time, give motions and feedback and get votes on it, and we'll go from there. It's still very early in the process. I believe we're still gathering information. We're very open to information. And so I don't want anybody to think that anything has been decided at this point, but we should work ourselves through our subcommittees, and from our subcommittee to the main committee, and then for the main committee to finally have a vote on that. That's how I think it should go.
Thank you, Coach. Can I give a shout out too to the IT department? I don't see Adrian up there anymore, but I do want to brag on them for just a minute. After the first public hearing, before we were even out of the room, Mr. Lewis was busy trying to respond to the public requests for how they got the information. I wasn't even home, and he had everything lined up on the front page, added more to it. So that was the first great thing. The second great thing was when it came up. Adrian, you listening to this? All right, good. The other thing was Ms. Bonner referred us over to Mr. Reggie Horn, who, when confronted with the issue of, all right, community centers are our vehicle to the seniors, boy, it wasn't 4 hours, and he came back and said, look, we think we don't have computers in everyone, we didn't have Wi-Fi in everyone, but if we could work with repurposed handheld tablets, we might be able to come up with something. And it was that kind of outside the box thinking that really is very helpful. So to all of you guys for taking care of us, we appreciate it very much. All right, now we have to hear from Mr. Coleman real quick, and then Ms. Robinson, pardon me.
I'd just like to say to my other committee members that I agree with what Coach Bryant just said 100%. And I would like to ask, could we move on to new business?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Robinson, you want to add to that?
Yes, and we still actually have the public hearings recap because we haven't gotten there yet. We're still in surveys. I would like to propose a motion to extend the survey until we receive 51% of the registered voters in Augusta, Richmond County. We have to because a lot of the population is children. 51% of registered voters reply. Is that possible?
Are you putting that in the form of a motion?
We'll be here for a day.
10%.
I don't think we ever had 50% of people vote on anything.
I'll hold for a moment.
Okay. All right. Mr. Pearson, I believe. Mr. Wimberly?
It's, Madam Chair, that's a lofty goal. It's highly attainable here in Augusta. So you just pull it? You must have turned your mic off before you did it. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to public hearings then, if that is the case. Ms. Robinson.
So I compiled notes and have analyzed the videos from the meetings. And I have a short, well, it'll be about 2 to 3 minutes for me to read it. Apologies for not having this in paper form for everybody to see, so I'll just read it so that it's a record. Summary of findings from public hearings, July 2025. The Charter Review Committee public hearings on July 10th, 21st, and 22nd surfaced strong community interest in reforming governance to improve accountability, representation, and transparency. Residents emphasized the need for clearer structure that restores public trust and delivers services more equitably across Augusta, Richmond County. Now, the key community themes and priorities. Number 1, reforming the government structure. Our current model is mayor, commission, administrator. This structure was affirmed during the meetings. However, many participants expressed dissatisfaction with the administrator role, citing ambiguity and lack of effectiveness. Support of a city manager model. The overwhelming majority of participants advocated for replacing the administrator with a professional city manager, emphasizing the need for a more accountable and clearly defined executive function under commission oversight. This was described as a way to bring professionalism and stability to city operations. Rejection of strong mayor model. There was near unanimous opposition to shifting toward a strong mayor system. Residents voiced concerns about concentrating too much power in one individual, especially without stronger checks and balances. Number 2, structure and size of commission. Maintain or slightly adjust commission structure. Most attendees supported keeping the current number of commissioners, while one person proposed eliminating super districts in favor of a 10 single-member district. This was not widely endorsed. Supermajority voting rules. Many called for requiring 2/3 supermajority for major commission decisions to reduce unilateral actions and ensure broader consensus. Number 3, accountability and oversight. Department head responsiveness. Strong concerns were raised about the lack of accountability for department heads, particularly their responsiveness to constituent complaints and 311 calls. Commission conduct and attendance. Residents criticized commissioners for walking out during votes or missing meetings, requesting enforceable attendance policies and ethical standards. Ethics and transparency. There was strong support for establishing an independent ethics committee or similar mechanism to investigate misconduct and ensure public integrity. Number 4, civic engagement and information access. District-based public meetings, and this is more related to the CRC. Participants requested more neighborhood and district-level hearings to ensure inclusive community input across all areas of government. Improved marketing and communications. Several people asked whether the CRC had a budget for outreach and called for better marketing of public materials, including visuals and plain language summaries of the charter. Transparencies of process. Attendees urged CRC members to remain objective and stick to the facts, expressing frustration with political gatekeeping and lack of transparency in how members were selected. Charter accessibility. Many residents reported difficulty accessing the current charter online and call for its prominent publication and simplified explanation, which we were able to do. Number 5, equity, infrastructure, and growth. Uneven development and investment. Citizens spoke about clear disparities in investment between districts, citing lack of access to healthy food, poor infrastructure, and underfunded community programs. Infrastructure and transportation. Participants called for better citywide transportation planning and more equitable resource allocation. Faith in the system. Residents emphasize that restoring trust in government requires reforms rooted in accountability, transparency, and professionalism. And this is the last one. Number 6, legal and electoral concerns. Annexation and triggers for charter review. And this was more some general questions related to the charter itself. Questions were raised about annexation procedures, the timeline for implementing CRC recommendations, and whether regular reviews of the charter should be mandated. Partisan versus nonpartisan elections. A few participants inquired about the role of political affiliation in local races and proposed moving elections to November to improve turnout. Judicial branch oversight. Attendees asked why the judicial system has not yet been addressed in the CRC process and encourage its inclusion moving forward. And that's all that I have. Any questions from our committee members?
Ms. Backus.
Can you clarify, I believe it was number 3 maybe, when you talked about the 2/3?
Let's be respectful, please. It was number 2, and it was the supermajority voting rules. Many call for requiring 2/3 supermajority votes.
Can we request proper decorum up here?
I'll take my time and go on Facebook then.
Oh, Lord.
Ms. Robinson.
Father God, I stretch my hand to thee, no other help I know.
Point of order. Ms. Backus, I believe, has the floor.
Yes, she asked me to reread that. The supermajority voting rules, many call for requiring 2/3 supermajority votes for major commission decisions to reduce unilateral actions and ensure broader consensus. To my knowledge, that question came up in each of the 3 meetings at least 6 times.
And just to clarify, when you're speaking of the commission, are you talking about the Charter Review Committee as a commission, or are you talking about our government commission? Because our government commission already does require a 2/3 majority vote in order to make changes to the charter.
So it wasn't response to making changes to the charter. It was 2/3 requiring of commission decisions related to the commission. So right now, it's 6 votes, but it was 2/3 for the commission.
Because I do, from my recollection, there were several people that did bring up that they felt like our committee, when making recommendations for the charter, should require a 2/3.
There was some discussion on that as well, but the bulk of it was in relation to the commission. I'm happy to provide the raw information if you like.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fouché?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I took head count at each of the meetings that we had. July 10th, we had 53 people in attendance. July 21st, we had 37. July 22nd, we had 58. That's 148 people visited our meetings, public meetings. It's less than 0.1%. On the supermajority voting rules, we visited that subject too many times. Charter accessibility, that was addressed after the first meeting before we all got home. And faith in the system, elections have consequences. Each of us was appointed by an elected official. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your feedback. Mr. Coleman?
I paid really good attention at all 3 of the public meetings, and with the exception of one lady, the lady sitting here in blue, the same people that brought up the 2/3 vote were the same 2 individuals that were brought along with Ms. Backus. They're friends of hers, and I just think that giving them the credit for so many different people asking for it. I didn't see it. I seen the same individuals at every meeting asking the same thing. I just want to make that clear.
Coach Bryant?
I'd like to ask Mr. Plunkett for his legal opinion on this. And Robert Rules of Order, I think anytime there is a vote and that vote is taken, there is a room for considering a vote. And what I've known in the past is that if somebody on the prevailing side asks for that reconsideration, that can be voted on and done. So I think it will be helpful in the future if there's close votes and some new information becomes available, that we can ask for that window of reconsideration. If that's a part of Robert Rules of Order is needed, we can take that vote at that time. But until that is done, we are governed to go about what's been voted on and handled. And so, Mr. Plunkett, is that window of reconsideration, is that a part of Robert Rules of Order, or am I just thinking?
You have the ability to reconsider issues, and then you can also have the ability to rescind prior votes. Typically, rescission is permitted unless there's been some action that is in reliance of the motion that was passed. Currently, this body has taken very little action in terms of substantive, obviously rules and things of that nature, but I think y'all made 2 motions, which I think also passed unanimously relative to the charter. So, so theoretically, if you were trying to, as to this issue, the 2/3 or something like that, you could theoretically still change that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Coach, and thank you, Mr. Plunkett. Ms. Backus?
I just want to address a couple of things. I invite everybody. I sent out the email about our town halls and the survey to 2,200 people. I shared it publicly on my business page. My job running a nonprofit is literally to connect with the community. Ms. Gala, her and I have never had a conversation until about a week ago. I know Monique from working in the community. The gentleman back there, all the way in the back, I actually saw him at the Land Bank conference, but I can't tell you his name. I didn't actually meet Mr. Williams or Moses until this process started. So this isn't me loading everybody up as my friends and bringing them to the meetings. Also, I would ask that we be accurate and honest when we are talking about things. The supermajority requirement has been discussed by this committee 2 times. 2 times. And if we're going to complain about bringing stuff before this committee repeatedly, then perhaps we should stop discussing whether or not we're going to block more than one vote or survey response from an IP address because that was discussed and answered, or whether or not we're going to have paper ballots because that was discussed and answered. None of y'all complained about discussing the subcommittee schedule 4 different times. So if we're going to be fair, then let's be fair across the board.
Thank you, Ms. Pulley. Ms. Backus, Ms. Robinson.
One point of clarity before we move on, because we should move on. I just want to make sure the 2/3 that I'm referencing in the document based on the notes was mostly related to the commission and their voting procedure, not necessarily the CRC. So just point of clarity. And moving on.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
I'd like to say just a couple of things. You said for the recap of the hearing, order is that's the most important thing. We lose order at our meetings with the public. And that has to be because we don't give guidelines what we're speaking about. So we set the rules at the beginning. And if somebody get up and talk about whatever, let them talk. We're there to hear, not to comment. Order is most important. I think once we gather and contain order, we'll be all right in our meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis, and thank you for your intervention on Tuesday evening. It was much appreciated. All right, very good. Let's move on to new business. Is there any that anyone wants to bring up? Ms. Robinson?
Yes, we need to discuss a vice chair at our next meeting at least. That's one. We also need to discuss the ability to have a budget, whether it's for marketing or whatever have you. Also want to add, and this can be discussion for our next meeting, district-based meetings where each of us hold a town hall within the district we represent. That is very important. And one question I would have, and the reason I'm asking it publicly is because it has been on the agenda, on the commission's agenda. And for several meetings now, the commission, it was the Administrative Services agenda, and then it has been most recently, the commission's agenda. There has been discussion for the CRC on that agenda. But in both cases, our chair has left the meeting before that item was discussed. So I would like some clarity on why that's happening, because I would like to know what the commission's questions are. But if we never get there because our chair keeps leaving the meeting, then we never understand what the commission wants.
I personally would advise you to wait till you have your full appointments and then do that issue there. I'm actually in the queue for a little different issue. I think that before your old business that you should make a motion to adopt Mrs. Robinson's report for information purposes. Accept that as information.
Very good. Do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll motion.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Sir. Mr. Powell, second. Any discussion? All right. Mr. Wimberly, did you want to say something?
No, I was trying to give the move to the motion.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. If not, let's cast our votes on that count then.
Ms. Wilhelmi?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson? Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Are you voting, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Barnhill, if she was still eligible.
Right, we don't have.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead. Look at 3. That motion carries.
Thank you. To answer the question of district meetings, we have encouraged each other from the beginning to please feel free to schedule those. That you are representing those districts, have at it. I'd like to, Chair acknowledges Ms. Barnhill Turnley.
Thank you. Just for a point of clarification, it's not that the chair was not at the meeting and was not willing to stay. In both instances, Mr. Lewis, the commissioner, took those and moved them to the next meeting. So it's not like she walked out, but in fact, I was there, the one on Tuesday, and he moved it to the next committee meeting, and then he left. So it's not that she was there and was not willing to participate. You can always go back and look at the tape, because I was there Tuesday, and he moved that. He took it off the agenda because we had been there for a long time. He moved it to the next committee meeting. So I just want to make, if we're going to be fair, as you guys say, let's be fair. It's not that she wasn't there waiting, but he took it off the agenda and moved it to another date, I guess next week or whenever. Just wanted to clarify to be fair.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Backus.
Just to clarify, because I was here both times, and he moved them off of the agenda after Ms. Wilhelmi did leave. And I was here both times. Now, 6 hours between those 2 meeting dates, and that is absolutely ridiculous to sit for 6 hours as a citizen who's volunteering their time on this committee and still not be heard. So in all fairness, it was taken off after she had left, but it had been after hours of sitting here on 2 separate occasions. I do want to, because this keeps being brought up and it keeps becoming an issue, and I would ask the clerk to put it on the record that I am formally requesting an expectation for proper decorum and respect from other committee members to each other, including when we are yielding, when the floor is yielded to me, until our chair yields it to somebody else, that floor belongs to me. This throwing yourself back in your chair, and we are not 3 years old. We don't need to throw our bodies onto the floor and throw a tantrum. And this should be applied equally across the board, not just calling out some people and not calling out others. And I would like to put it on the record officially that I am requesting that, because as much as I bring it up, it continues to happen and it goes unchecked, and that is not okay.
Thank you, Ms. Backus. All right, Mr. Coleman, Mr. Wimberly, are you in that queue too?
I'm in, but you don't want me to go first.
Yeah, I just have something short to say. I agree with what most of Ms. Backus says, but we as members of the Charter Review Committee also need to be held to a standard equally. When you're not sitting in that chair, you refer to a very close friend of mine as a commissioner as a very bad name. You've done it twice. Now, I haven't referred to any former commissioners, any current commissioners, cussing them, and you have. So if you want to look at somebody, look in the mirror, ma'am.
Mr. Wimberly.
Madam Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Seriously?
Madam Chairman, in that you adjourn, I'm going to come to your defense on the what happened Tuesday. I also was here, and I took the class over at Savannah River site called Paying Attention to Details, and I do pay attention. And there was some politics played, but it wasn't on your part. It wasn't on Mr. Lewis's part. It was definitely on the chairman of the proceedings part, that they jumped around and they didn't, and they skipped around. And I think it was done possibly not intentionally, but could have been. And I want to commend you for staying as long as you did, because I recognize what time you left. I recognize what time Mr. Lewis left. And I think that someone didn't want Mr. Lewis's issue to come up.
I think there's no further business after adjournment.
Actually, I was still in here. Again, I just formally requested this, and what continues to happen is accusations are thrown and then we're cut off, so there's no response. What I was addressing, sir, and we can discuss that outside of here, because what you're talking about is something, what you're accusing me of is what happened outside of here. Your decorum up here is what I am addressing. Your decorum when you are representing this committee is what I am addressing.
Thanks, we're officially adjourned.